Yeah, I think that would be helpful, Jackie.
Okay, I see Rachel and Kay, and I see Morgan now. We've verified that Kira can hear us. Allison, can you just confirm for me that you can hear us too?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I will call the meeting to order now. This is Jackie Carroll, Chair, and Jasmine, I will shoot it straight over to you for meeting procedures before we really get going.
Great. So I'm Jasmine Moore. I'm the Sustainability Director for the City of Lawrence. I don't think we have any new guests this time around, so the same procedures as usual. So just make sure that you mute and unmute yourself accordingly. I will take the liberty of muting you if we hear background noise, and if you are, I'm just going to let a couple more people in. If the background noise is a distraction, we will, I'll go ahead and mute you. I will say that if you are able to have your video feed on, that would be helpful, but we understand that sometimes that's not possible. And I think that is it. Also, if you, for any votes, if you would just give, if you could do roll call, Jackie as chair, just to make sure that we can verbally hear who is in support or against something. And when you speak, if you would just also give your name before you continue, so that those that are just listening to the audio know who is speaking. So I think that is it for meeting procedures.
Okay, thank you. We'll get going to our first item then, which is to approve our minutes from November. I would like to submit a correction, and it's pretty minor. It's just that I noticed it said that we approved an additional subcommittee for Green New Deal work, and I don't believe that was the case. We talked about it as a future agenda item, so I would submit that correction. Are there any other correction on the minutes? Sound like it. Could I entertain a motion with that correction?
I motion to proceed with the correction.
Second, it's Kay.
Thank you. I'll go through now for your aye or nay or yes or no, however you'd like. Rachel?
I'm sorry, we're voting for to approve the minutes, or to approve the correction? Okay, yes.
Approve the minutes with the correction per the motion, yes. Thank you. Kay?
Yes.
Thank you. Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see, Deb? I think I saw you, but I didn't hear you. Yes. I think we need a verbal confirmation, though. You can get your audio working.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see who else we've got here. Kira?
Yes.
Thank you. Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. And Lily? Lily, you're still muted. I can't hear or see you yet.
Hi, sorry, I had to drop off and get back on.
Okay.
First part that you're saying, so aye.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and I as well. So that is a unanimous pass. Thank you, everybody. We will move on now to our first official agenda item, which is an administrative task, and that is our Public Incentives Review Committee, or PIRC, appointment. And I'll just read this off of the agenda really quick for everybody. The Sustainability Advisory Board is responsible for nominating 3 people to serve on the PIRC. The names will be forwarded to the mayor and city commission for consideration, and they will appoint 1 person. So we need to have a list of 3 names, and then one of those people will be appointed. I will just carry over from last meeting that Karen Pagel-Miners is interested. She works with Sierra Club, and she was involved in helping to promote the renewable energy item that Zab worked on way earlier this year or last year. I see that Kay is also interested as well. So that's 2 names. And then I know I heard from one additional person tonight, Kate Lawrence, and you might recognize her from our last meeting. She spoke in support of our Green New Deal topic. She volunteers with the Sunrise Movement as a precinct committee person, and she also works at the Lead Center. I will leave it open now for any additional names from board members who have found other interested parties. Okay, it sounds like we have 3 names then. And if that's the case, then I will take a motion for Karen, Kate, and Kay to be our 3 names. Yes. And if no one's comfortable with that, since I have the names, I would be willing to do that.
So moved.
I second that.
Jasmine, is that Deb's audio that's popping up separately? I didn't track that.
I'm not sure. Deb, were you the only, did anybody else second, or was it just Deb?
I think there were 2 of us, Leila and, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, whoever, sorry, I'm either not matching up video with audio or something. I just see a number on a screen. Who made the motion?
Rachel made the motion.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got Rachel moved and Lily seconded. So I will go through the roll call now for your yes or no or aye or nay. So Rachel, I will start with you.
Yes.
Thank you. Kay?
Yes.
Thank you. Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Deb?
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see down the list here. Kira?
Yes.
Thank you. Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. And Lily?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I say aye as well. So that again passes unanimously. Thank you for everybody. That was quick. Let's move on to our next item.
Hey, before we move on to discussion, I had one more thing for the SAB administration. Is that okay to do here, Jackie?
Yes, that looks appropriate. Actually, if it's a separate topic, I don't see, I do see some public. I think I forgot to open it up to public comment for PIRC. So we could do that now if anybody is interested in having public comment for the PIRC conversation. Okay, it doesn't sound like it. So Jasmine, go ahead with the other administrative item, please.
So the other administrative item is that there will be some openings on the Sustainability Advisory Board as far as positions. And so I invited Kim Kreiner-Ritchie, who is in our sustainability office, to talk about one of those positions in particular. Michael Steinley, who was formerly on this board, held the position of joint SAB member and Food Policy Council member, and that position was created intentionally so that there would be a connection between those two groups. And so since he has stepped down, that position is open, and that can be filled by an existing SAB member or somebody new applying. But I thought it would be helpful if Kim were to talk a little bit about the Food Policy Council and the roles and responsibilities of that group, so that that you all could make an informed decision about if you were interested in filling that position. So I will turn it over to Kim, who can share more.
Hi, everybody. So it's dinner time for my 3-year-old. So if you hear chatter in the background, I apologize. We would be eager to welcome a new SAB member to the Food Policy Council. The Food Policy Council meets once a month for 2 hours. It's the third Monday of every month. We do ask that the council members join a working group, and we have 3 of those that are defined by goals in our food system plan. So the goals in the food system plan have to do with economic development, land use and conservation, affordable food, equity in the food system, and food waste. So those are the 5 priority areas that the Food Policy Council is focused on currently. And we have broken 3 working groups up in those, with the first 2, and then the second 2, and then the food waste group is its own group. And that is where Michael really took leadership for us. Some of the current initiatives that the council has been champion of have been equity in the food system, including work with ethnic food retailers and cultural inclusion in our food system. Additionally, doing some internal work and looking at the structure and procedures of the council, and if those are barriers to participation and representation and community engagement for those audiences that the work most serves. Additionally, looking at agricultural economic development in the county and what sort of economic development the county would want to recruit in that area, whether it's something we're well suited for or something that we really need. For example, small scale meat processing for our local growers has been a real urgent issue this year with COVID-19 and the bottleneck in meat processing. So there is momentum among some of our producers in the county to move in that direction, which the Food Policy Council would be poised to support. And then our health equity group that kind of fosters the affordable food and equity goals of the food system. Some of their work, again, I already mentioned some of their equity work, but they're also really taking opportunity to make initiative on transportation access to food with the new transportation hub in Lawrence, or this, the relocation of the what are they calling it? Transfer hub, and the route redesign that we have the opportunity to do around that, and looking at where are our contact points for food, and not only that, but what's the usability of those routes to get people from food deserts, for example, to those resources. So those are just some of the things that have been on the table for Food Policy Council. We're entering a new year, and there will be, new priorities made, and so there's absolutely opportunity to bring different perspective, either from your professional experience, personal experience, lived experience, or passion, to champion for the Food Policy Council in terms of food system issues. So yeah, I guess I'll just see if there's any immediate questions or clarity that's needed. And then I'll put my email in the chat box, and we'd be happy to give you more detail or answer any follow-up questions on a one-on-one basis if this is something that's interesting. And Jasmine can tell me if I left anything out.
I think you covered it. Yeah, I would just offer.
If anyone wants to know more about the Food Policy Council, I would encourage you to check out some of the recent agendas on the website and minutes there, and also reach out to Kim. She is a wealth of knowledge and has lots of experience working with this group.
Yes, and also our next full council meeting is on Monday evening, which that agenda is posted on the county website now, and I can put that in the chat box here too once we move on. But that would be a great place to pop in and just see, what the group's talking about and group dynamics and things. I'll also make a plug. If full council commitment does not seem like the right thing for you at this point, we also welcome any engagement on our working groups. So if one of those really struck a chord with you, that you can follow up with me as well. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Kim. I would assume the meetings are always on Monday. Would that be the third Monday or second Monday?
third Monday, usually, yes, you're right. This month we did move it because of the holiday week. So yes, usually third Monday. Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, I'll leave it open just for a sec for any possible questions. Okay, thanks, Kim. I will move into our discussion points for the evening. Jasmine, before we jump into our involuntary waste discussion, can you let me know what our hard cutoff is for the evening?
Yes, so there is another meeting scheduled after this one, so as close to 7 o'clock as we can get to wrapping up would be helpful.
Okay, so we've got 2 discussion points and it's almost 6 o'clock, which means we've got probably realistically less than a half an hour for each if we were to divvy it up equally. So keeping that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into our involuntary waste discussion. And I'll read straight off the agenda. Involuntary waste would be products and materials provided automatically that are difficult to opt out of. For example, free weekly communication newspaper, marketing materials. And then, of course, this was on our previous agenda from last month, but we tabled it due to time. So I do see, or I saw, let me see. Do we still have Michelle on to talk with us about this?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, wonderful. I wanted to say thank you for attending last meeting and also apologies for running out of time because
Well,
we
it's quite interesting.
yes.
And also, I wanted to add that Kathy Richardson, the solid waste division manager for the city, is planning to hop on here. She has something until 6, and then she'll be chiming in around 6.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Was there any kind of, were you going to present any kind of information to us on this, or was this going to be just kind of a discussion point for everybody?
So,
no, I think, oh, go ahead, Jasmine.
I was just going to say, staff is here to be
Available for questions or to provide any clarification on anything, but this topic was really brought up by the board as a discussion point. So there is no formal presentation, but staff is available if there are specific questions we can help with.
Okay, great. Then I will just kick the conversation, the topic off for the board and leave it open for folks to start that off. Any questions from the board on involuntary waste information? I suppose, Michelle, if you have information on, whether there are policies around this, and whether there is something, it's some significant way for SAB to help decrease the amount of involuntary waste, that would be helpful information. Not sure what direction or how deep we want to.
Could you remind me or go ahead and define what you're calling involuntary waste? I think I understood from the email from Jasmine, but
yeah, so it's basically like the free newspapers that get thrown into people's yards, or any marketing materials, door knockers. I know junk mail is kind of a wide topic that isn't specific to city, but I would throw that in there as well. I'm not sure, honestly, beyond that, what would be considered.
Okay. I know, like, locally, the Crave was one of those newspapers that the Journal World was delivering to everyone basically who didn't subscribe. But that seems to have stopped. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but so I haven't been personally receiving as much of that kind of thing lately, besides the junk mail. But I know there are, several organizations where you can write to stop junk mail, or stop the phone book from being delivered. And I mean, it might be a matter of kind of publicizing those a little better. Or were you all thinking of something more?
No, I don't know on junk mail. I would say I haven't noticed the crave where I am. I just moved this summer though, so I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it. I see Kim said in the chat that she's still getting the crave, so I'm not sure what the rules are from the world for determining who gets it and who doesn't. Are there any board members that want to weigh in on whether they've seen it recently? No.
And it may be something where you can, contact their subscriptions department or something and say specifically, I don't want it. And maybe it's just something we could get the word out a little better, or, put that on our recycle website as one of our resources.
Okay.
This is Deb Ford. I haven't received it in the mail. Last week I had a site open that one of the cities had an information that you could go to for unwanted materials that you received at your house, and they had a list of different ways of stopping it that was pretty complete. Unfortunately, I'm not able to find it right now, but I think making some of those things available through our website might be helpful to find ways of getting rid of unwanted materials. I think that might have been what Michael was aiming for.
Okay.
I know we have the materials recycling directory.
Correct.
Easy way to wrap that in there.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just what popped in my head.
I mean, it's a little tricky because I guess, we could put like material junk mail in, but usually it's like a database search for what item do you want to recycle.
Right, that you already have.
But there's probably room to, if it wouldn't work there specifically, to go ahead and just put it on our Lawrence Recycles website, which is now a page under solid waste. And I actually no longer have privileges to edit that, but it's only an ask, and it's probably, pretty easy. I know at one time we actually had the Stop Junk Mail thing on our website, or the ways to do it, or who you could write to, or who you could, I guess these days, email or submit a form to do that. But I know there's kind of several major, I think one of them was a direct marketing association, but there's several resources from a quick search that we could pass along.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, then I will open it up to public comment really quickly. I know that Don put in the chat, Don Hawkins, just make collection bins for this stuff and send it back to the senders. That'd be nice. Make them deal with it.
Yeah.
Any other public?
Like some cities, when I grew up, they had like the no solicitors sign you could put in your door or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe something like that for like no door hangers, or I don't know. It may be done somewhere.
Okay. Is there any public comment on this item? Any additional public comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board one last time for any other comments or questions before we move to our next discussion item.
And then if no one has anything, I'd just like to add that I can go ahead and take this to the department and see if we can get some of those resources added to our website.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, it looks like we don't have anything remaining to resolve from the board. So thank you again for coming on tonight to help us with that, Michelle. I'm glad we got to it a little quicker than we did last time.
Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, let's move on to our discussion item B, which is solar rate design, including grid access fees, electricity rates, and alternative minimum charge proposed by Evergy to the Kansas Corporation Commission. There were several resources sent out to board members to prepare for this item. Kay, if you'd like, it'd be nice to maybe have like an intro and what we should talk about tonight and how we can maybe affect what's going on. Oh, you're still muted.
There, sorry.
That's all right, thanks.
So I hope everyone had a chance to look at some of those resources. There's a long history associated with this topic. And in 2014, there was a net metering requirement that solar customers could have grid access and that they would be reimbursed for the amount of solar they generated, electricity that they generated, and send it back to Evergy Grid. In 2014, the net metering rule was rescinded, and I'm not sure of all of the exact terminology. It was voted down, it was rescinded, something. And so it happened that a cap was put on how much solar energy could be generated by solar customers of Evergy. Evergy has approximately 600,000 customers in the Kansas area. And also there are some customers on the Missouri side, but this only affects the Kansas side. Originally, this was Westar. This was called Westar. And Westar morphed into Evergy. So the situation happened where the utilities in some regard, and I do have a slant to this, the utilities decided that this was affecting their bottom line and started fighting about, and this is not just Evergy, and that's the reason why I sent the link that talks about other utilities. Evergy is an investor-owned utility, and its business model is to sell more energy, and they get more resources and money back for their customers, their shareholders. So there are not, Westar Evergy now is the largest investor-owned utility. There's a couple other investor-owned utilities in the state, but there are also other types of utilities. There's small rural electric cooperatives, and many of these are not subject to this rule. And with a public utility like electric utility that's investor owned, it's basically allowed to have a monopoly. And that was a good thing for reliability in the past. However, there can't be any competition. And so the reason a lot of these rules are have come about is to make sure there's no competition in producing electric generation. And in Kansas, there's actually a rule that the only people that can sell electricity is the assigned electric utility. So that's the reason why solar customers can't turn around and sell their electricity to someone else, because it either has to go back, to Evergy. Currently, Evergy, we have residential customers and and commercial customers that have solar arrays, some on the rooftop, some are in other locations, but it's considered distributive solar generation. So that means that an individual can generate electricity for their use, and then the excess goes back to the grid, to the Evergy company, and they can turn around and sell it on the spot market. So they can make a profit on the amount of solar generation that's returned to them. The situation that in general that has happened over the past 10 years, I'd say, almost every year that our rate increase has gone up, actual consumer use has gone down. People understand that if they do things with their own homes or their own businesses, then they can save money and reduce their rates. Unfortunately, this is counter to the investor-owned utility that is in our area, and their business model is sell more power, get more revenue for their shareholder. So when customers choose to install energy savings devices or solar or whatever method they have to reduce their electricity usage, that impacts the bottom line for Westar. And collectively, it's not much for solar customers, but overall, since all customers realize this, energy efficiency has come about. We're using lots of different appliances that are more energy efficient. We realize there's an impact as consumers, so we are doing things to save on our electricity bill. But that is totally counter to the business model for an investor-owned utility. So in the last few years, well, actually probably prior to the last 10 years, solar and wind, renewable energy was cost prohibitive on an individual level. The technology was so expensive that generally that individuals didn't invest on their own system. But technology started improving, and the demand for individuals to be able to control their own destiny for their electricity rates and their electricity uses for whatever reason, whether it's because they did not want to produce so many emissions, that, or whether they just want to reduce their bill. There's lots of different reasons people install solar power or wind power for that matter. At the same time, Evergy realized that it needed to be doing more in the renewable energy industry, and found that it could save resources if they themselves started to invest in large solar and large wind projects. So I don't know I can't quote what the percentage, but it's a significant amount that Evergy has invested in their own, the windmills, the wind turbines that we see now all over the Evergy system, as well as other utilities around the country, particularly in the Midwest, where we have an abundance of wind and a bunch of sun on a regular basis. There are limitations to the renewable energy, the different renewable energy techniques, and that is that sometimes the wind doesn't blow and sometimes it's pretty cloudy. So you do need to have reliable energy systems. So you can't totally, replace the grid right now with just renewable energy. However, batteries are coming along so that one of these days we wouldn't possibly need to have coal plants. We wouldn't not necessarily need to have gas-fired plants. But we could maybe move toward 100% renewable energy. And because of that, Evergy has developed contracts. And so one of the, and someone like Jasmine can tell exactly the contract that the city of Lawrence signed with Evergy to, to obtain its energy, electricity energy uses from the renewable energy side, so that the city itself can start to move away from coal-fired generation. This is fine, but the distributed solar is for the smaller customer. My company has a solar array, and it offsets one building's use. But the way the rate structure is, companies can't put more than around 200 solar panels on a building. The general residential customer only has, they have a smaller amount of solar panels. And because of the way the rate was designed, there were issues associated with Westar becoming concerned that solar customers were not paying their fair share. It's important to know that there was a cap put on the amount of solar customers. So the cap is that there cannot be, for the state of Kansas, and this is a state law, that it cannot, Evergy does not have to install any more than 1% of 1% of their total power generation, or actually it's the demand of the highest demand. So it's a very small amount that is restricted to be able to be sold as solar. Right now, there are small numbers of solar customers on the residential side and on the commercial side. I think that is around 1,200 customers total. So we're not talking a lot of customers right now, and we would have to, the individual solar companies would have to sell an awful lot of solar panels before we even reach that amount. But one of the biggest issues is that even that small amount, Evergy has continued to place obstacles in the path of solar generation, particularly rooftop solar generation. And by the way, community solar arrays are totally not allowed in this state. The state of Missouri is allowed to have community solar groups. We're not allowed to do that in Kansas. Only individuals can develop small solar arrays, small solar system. And if you want to have a larger, if a company wanted to have a larger one, then they would not be allowed to take advantage of the net metering. They would just lose the excess amount that they generate. So a couple of years ago in 2018, there was a demand charge that the Kansas Corporation Commission, by the way, Kansas Corporation Commission is the regulatory agency over electric utilities and must approve all of the rates. They approved a solar demand charge for solar. And this basically turned into killing solar in the state of Kansas in the Evergy territory, because the demand charge was around $50 a month, which is about what the system was costing for residential to even install it. At the time, this was only for residential customers, so it did not impact commercial customers. That was an excessive fee, and most of the solar companies, there's 2 or 3 that operate in Lawrence, they started doing business in the Missouri side because they couldn't, with good faith install more customers in the solar area when it wasn't cost effective because of the demand charge. Several groups sued Evergy and said this isn't right. And it went through several layers of the court system up until April of last year, when the Kansas Supreme Court ruled that it was unfair. This charge was discriminatory and it should not be applied to the solar customers. Now, I am really giving you a high level overview of this, but the Kansas Supreme Court said, Evergy, you have to stop doing that. Since April of last year, Evergy has not stopped doing that. They have continued to charge the demand charge. The Supreme Court said, Evergy, you have to come back and propose something else to the Corporation Commission. And they didn't say you can't have a fee, but they just said it cannot be a discriminatory fee. So this current situation is, besides the fact that they did not stop charging the discriminatory charge for the residential solar, they came up with a scheme to charge additional, I guess it would be a $25 fee for solar customers. And it's one of those situations that it's still discriminatory. And, or if the KCC didn't approve that, so they had a two-pronged proposal. If you don't like that, then we're going to charge everyone in the system $35 extra. If you have a minimum bill that is below $35, you're going to have to pay up through that $35. There's like 160,000 people, or maybe less, that that generally have at least 1 month that have less than $35 a month. What it's going to do is going to charge everybody. So they're given a choice to do solar rate discrimination or rate discrimination for everyone. Neither of those rates are reasonable. And that is what this particular docket is about right now. And they had some verbal testimony at the first part of November, middle of December, that I didn't get to participate in. And every single person or group that spoke to the KCC about this said this was wrong. Both sides, both options, it's not correct. And with this particular proposal, the written comments go until December 21st. This is really very complicated. And, but what's not complicated is that the fact is that for the last 10 years, Evergy customers have been paying more and more and more every single year for the electricity that they use. And there's all sorts of charts and graphs that show that Evergy customers are paying higher rates than all of the states that are touching our borders. We are continuing to pay more and more with less usage. And that is the crux of the issue. So I ask that this situation be put on the agenda so that we could talk about it. I don't know. I intend to write a comment letter for my company. I haven't done that yet, and there's many great resources to talk about the issues, but I want to encourage people to individually write letters. There may be something that we want to do with the SAB. I would encourage, we have this is an economic development issue also with our community, because we have companies here in town that are trying to sell solar, but they can't. The situation is not amenable to knowing what you're going to have to pay. And most solar customers really want some regulatory certainty and rate certainty. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I'm sorry I took so long explaining it, but. So I don't know. There are questions?
Thank you, Kay. I just want to throw the stat out there that Dorothy Barnett from Climate and Energy Project has communicated, which is directly from Evergy's testimony on the item, which is that almost 130,000 of their customers that would be impacted by this make less than $24,000 a year. So just to really highlight the fact that the $25 fee for solar users only is discriminatory. Their other proposal with the $35 minimum bill is really going to disproportionately impact really low income folks. And neither of those options are okay with apparently a lot of Kansans, and it's not okay with me either. I also plan to submit comment on this personally. I wanted to get through this meeting first so that I was really well informed on it. Kay, though, I would like to hear from you, just so SAB is clear on what you think that our board can do to impact this, because we typically, make recommendations to the city commission. So what would you like to see out of this?
If no one makes any suggestions, I would like to propose to ask the city commission to also make comments and put forth information. In many different situations, the city commission has made recommendations on legislation at the state as well as at the Corporation Commission. This particular comment should be addressed to the Corporation Commission for this docket.
This is
A question?
Jasmine.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jasmine. I think you anticipated the question.
So Jasmine Moore, Sustainability Director. I just wanted to add that usually the City Commission and city staff on their behalf are able to make or give testimony on items that are on their legislative platform. Their legislative platform will be discussed at the meeting next Tuesday. And so there is some draft language that will be posted as soon as tomorrow, but that would be one opportunity to weigh in on the legislative platform and priorities, as opposed to issue by issue asking for the commission to give testimony or make statements on something. This is really the platform that will allow staff to be nimble enough to make comments in a timely manner, because as you know, this process takes a while from advisory board to making it to commission, which may not be in time for a hearing. So I just wanted to share that as one opportunity.
Jasmine, the Lawrence legislative platform currently does have renewable energy and energy efficiency statements in it, I think, and my estimation, it would cover this particular situation, but you would, the link is on the city's website. I don't have it in front of me, but
And I will add that the city is updating their legislative platform to better align with the new strategic plan. And so it will be formatted a little bit differently. It will have some things that haven't been on there in the past. So I would just encourage you to take a close look at it as soon as it's published tomorrow, and see if you feel like it covers this topic.
So the one that is coming out tomorrow is the draft?
The one that's coming out tomorrow will be voted on Tuesday. So once it's voted on, it will be the official legislative platform.
Do you know if it retained the energy statements in it?
The latest draft that I have seen has that renewable energy and energy efficiency language in it.
So I just want to clarify one of our opportunities here, if I understand it correctly, because their legislative priority list is going to be updated, and because that is on the next agenda, we have an opportunity to be heard, since it's not a new topic that we would be bringing up. And really, in the end, what we could do is authorize a letter from the chair on behalf of SAB to take an action on one of their legislative priorities. That would be okay, right?
I think that is correct. But Jasmine has to make that.
Yeah,
Yes,
does that sound good?
If you would like to take an action tonight and issue a letter for the to be considered for that Tuesday discussion, that's one option. Another option is if it's directly related to this one specific item that's coming before the KCC and want specific action on that, then that would be another direction that you could take.
Okay, I was concerned that if that was the direction we went, that the commission wouldn't see it in time, considering that their next agenda is set and their next meeting after that one would be after the comments timeframe is over.
Yeah, I would say that if you take a look at the draft tomorrow, and if you feel like that's strong enough language that includes this issue, then once that legislative priority statement is adopted by the city commission, then we have our city attorney's office that monitors all the activity in Topeka. And so when issues come up that are related to that legislative priority statement, then the city has been authorized through the city commission adopting this legislative priority statement that we can go ahead and draft statements without you all having to come back and identify it and go through that process. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is to take a look at the draft that comes out tomorrow that will be discussed next Tuesday. If you feel like it is specific enough or broad enough that it would encompass this specific issue, then I would encourage you to participate in that meeting and give public comment to that effect. And if it doesn't, same thing, so that you can have some resolution around whether you feel like it's in there or not in there in the legislative platform. So it's not adopted yet. They will be reviewing it on Tuesday. There may be some changes, there may not be some changes, but this is the opportunity for the public process to happen.
Okay, thank you.
I do recommend that whatever ends up in the legislative priorities list is a very broad discussion about energy relative to climate change, as well as the governor has hoped to have an energy plan. So there's lots of that has been announced. So there's lots of things that will be coming up this year about energy. And so whatever we can do to make this a broad statement for the commissioners so that they can take action when it's needed, both at the Corporation Commission as well as in the legislative process.
Okay, let's hear from some more board members on thoughts around this and maybe directions on that you'd like to take with our potential action. We don't have to take action tonight, but if we did.
So I would just say, Jackie, I would second what you mentioned about Dorothy Barnett and the Climate Energy Project has been continuously monitoring this situation over the past, I don't know, at least 5 years, and have really great information, as well as really, click here to write your letter in opposition. Here's a possible template that, so I mean, just their materials are really fantastic. And I suppose as individuals, right, and probably many of us already have or are planning to sort of submit kind of individual letters to the KCC registering our opposition to the Evergy rate hike. I guess one other thing that I would just, it's not an action item per se, but it really bothered me, the two options that Evergy proposed, right? And kind of that framing just pitted against, right? You can pit it against sort of solar users or people with residential solars against sort of like the rest of Kansas or, particularly low income folks. And it seemed like, from my perspective, a very intentional perpetuation of this idea that it's one or the other. And so that framing struck me as strategic on their part and problematic as well. So again, that's not really an action item of any sort, but a kind of an observation about some of this. I guess in terms of action items, right? Us as individuals, and then supporting what Jasmine was mentioning regarding kind of like legislative openings and just making that kind of chain of communication and action as fluid as possible. I'm not super sure what else we would be able to do as a board, although I do think this is a really important issue. So if other folks have ideas, that'd be great to hear.
I'll just add really, oh, sorry, this is Morgan. I'll just add really quick that I really agree with what Rachel said about like it being super problematic that they're making it seem like one or the other in terms of like solar or low income communities, because that's like perpetuating, like, I don't even know. I agree with that. That's all I have to say. But and also I'm in favor of Jackie, what you mentioned about producing a letter and yeah.
I'll open it up to public comment in a sec, but I just want to leave one more moment for any more board members to weigh in. Okay, let's move to public comment then. If you would like to speak on this subject, I think you just need to turn off your mute and I think hopefully turn your video on, and I believe there's a function to raise your hand, or you can just visually raise your hand in your window there. Donna, it looks like you were interested in speaking. I'm not sure that you necessarily have to be signed up ahead of time. No, that's so any members of the public, whether you've signed up or not, may go ahead and speak. All right, go ahead.
Okay, well, I didn't know if I could speak, so I was typing and so I'm just going to read what I typed.
Okay.
Thank you, Kay, for bringing this up. It's really, really important issue right now on so many levels. And I really do think it's critical that Lawrence and Douglas County file comment. And I don't know if this board has the latitude to make a collective letter that's sent as public comment. But I can tell you from firsthand experience trying to fight fracking wastewater being dumped down wells in Kansas, which that's happening, and fighting these dockets at the KCC, that this is really the fox guarding the hen house, and they usually do everything they can to shut out the public. And if they're actually offering this public comment docket, it's really important that we speak up and not let this moment pass. And a lot is at stake. I'm very lucky to not be on the Evergy grid. I'm on a Free State Electric Cooperative, formerly Caw Valley Electric, that before it merged with other cooperatives in Nebraska, Kansas, and somewhere else I can't remember. But so I have a voice in my grid, which is nice. But in a free market, there's no guarantees of profit, and we finally reached the point where renewable energy is cheaper than dirty oil and coal. The city has made a pledge to move to 100% renewable. So this affects everything. It affects that planning and anyway, if Evergy can't figure out how to make cheaper energy and pass that savings along to customers, then they should take the hit or move aside. But so yeah, it's really this is really important. And so I would like to know if the Sustainability Advisory Board has the latitude to just send a letter themselves, like as your group, or does it have to get stamped by city and go through all of that? City commission, rather. Thank you.
This is Jasmine Moore. I can speak to that last piece. This board does not have the authority to send a letter directly to the KCC. It would need to come up through the city commission. So
I would like to make one additional comment. Any future movement toward renewable energy for individuals in our community, while the city may be now have a commitment with Evergy, this particular docket lays the framework for anything going forward. So individuals would not be able to control their own destiny on reducing greenhouse gas issues or climate change, or addressing climate change. And that would also impact our community goals, which are to eventually get everyone on renewable energy sources.
I would just like to comment to Dawn's question that though we may not be able to send a collective letter, there's nothing that stops us from identifying ourselves as a member of SAB in our own letters, though, you know, clarifying as usual with, as we should with city commission members, that we are not speaking on behalf of the board. We are a board member speaking on behalf of ourselves.
Can I comment on that? I've been on a few, participated in a few dockets on these abandoned oil wells and new permits to put wastewater down old wells. And if I've seen many people get kicked off the docket for lack of standing for many things, but one of the reasons consistently has been if you identify with, say, Sierra Club or somebody else. So I would actually encourage you to not identify yourself as, I would identify yourself as a public citizen. Otherwise, they have all kinds of it's crazy making, but just wanted to make that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other members of the comment who would like to make a comment on this topic?
I see Michael Allman has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Michael, go ahead.
I do. Hi, this is Michael Harmon. I think Kay did a great job explaining a very complicated issue. There's a couple things I'd like to add. The utilities are regulated utilities, which Kay was explaining, that they have to have some constraints, otherwise they'll just, raise the rates indiscriminately on everybody. So they're regulated. But I see this rooftop solar demand fee and any other option as a side door to get to a monopoly. And not total monopoly, but a monopoly of solar. If you consider wind energy, the wind generators are really big. They're spread out all over the landscape. And for efficiency's sake, they have to be big. The bigger they are, the more efficient they are. They're building some, I think, 250 or 300 foot tall ones that are going to be offshore the East Coast. So the bigger the better for wind, but solar is totally opposite. They don't need to be big. That's what we're talking about with rooftop solar. Yet Evergy wants to kill rooftop solar so they can monopolize large scale, large acreage solar, centralized solar farms. The problem with that is it's large scale. All those collectors cover up all kinds of grasslands, agricultural lands, forest lands, wherever they put them, it's going to cover up the land. Wind turbines don't do that, but solar will. So that's a big problem just of itself. As far as the KCC, the first fee they're proposing is $3 per kilowatt for a rooftop solar system. You'd have to pay $3 per kilowatt that you generate. The interesting thing is they say it's not discriminatory because all, as they put it, quote, all customers would see a grid access line on their bill. Oh, goody. However, if you don't have any solar installed, that line would read 0. I mean, how roundabout discriminatory is that? It doesn't mean that everybody is treated equally at all. And then as far as the $35 fee goes, I'll just add that it's not only discriminatory by whom it impacts, but it's a strong disincentive to save energy. If you're going to have to pay a certain amount every month, you're not going to be motivated to try to keep your bill down. It's a disincentive.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I'd encourage each of you as well to click on that link on your agenda for the docket. It takes you right to the KCC, and there's a link there to submit public comment. Thanks a lot. Thanks for good work.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Is there any further public comment? Okay, it doesn't sound like it, so I will bring it back to the board. At this point, there can be further discussion, or if someone would like to make a motion, that's appropriate now too.
Didn't I make a motion? Sorry, but I can't remember.
I may have missed it. Did you? What was the motion?
I didn't hear an official motion, Kay.
Okay. Well, I think that we should make a motion. I make a motion that we pursue asking the commission to make a comment on this. And if it fits within the legislative program, fine. I don't know how we do this with the time constraint, but to word it properly, maybe Jasmine, you would have, or Jackie have some suggestions, but.
Yeah, we kind of have an odd domino effect here with the next commission meeting coming up being the legislative priorities, because if the legislative priorities are, adequate by any one of our measures, then that may be enough to say, hey, here are your legislative priorities. This is what you've agreed to. Just to let you know, this is coming up. by December 21st, you should be consistent with your priorities and make sure that you submit a comment. I mean, we could go the same route in the opposite sense that, hey, your legislative priorities are being discussed this week. It looks like this isn't being adequately covered. It should be, and on top of to fulfill it, you should make a comment. I mean, we might have to include all of that. Jasmine, is that, I mean,
So I was just going to add a thought. This is Jasmine. That the legislative priorities that are being considered next Tuesday are technically for 2021. So because this is in 2020, this issue that that you all have elevated, I was just going to take a look at the 2020 statement. And Kay, I know that you've already looked at it, and consider if you feel like the current language is enough to be in alignment with this request. So if I would just ask that we take a moment to look through that, and I can even try to pull it up and share my screen if that would be helpful.
Why don't you do that? I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, just give me a moment.
If you can, because I haven't found it quickly on my computer.
I'm looking through it right now. Renewable energy and property assessed clean energy or PACE legislation. I may be able to share my screen if it's.
I think I muted myself.
Top of page 3.
The first one almost takes care of that. The first sentence. That's incentives, but
this is a disincentive. And then there's an energy efficiency one right below annexation 2. Okay,
and we know that these rates are disincentives for energy efficiency.
Right.
I'm sorry, this is Rachel. Just to clarify, we're reading this to try and sort of decide as a group whether this gives the commission leeway to make a statement or give. Okay.
Yes, basically.
So, so this is Jasmine, just to clarify, because this is an issue that falls in the 2020 year, I think that the 2020 legislative priority statement applies. And so if this issue falls under the priorities that are listed here, then I believe that you can make a request to the direct staff to, provide statement on this issue on behalf of the city.
With this particular issue, last year and the year before, in 2018, 2019, and 2020, I think this was at least 2019 and 2020, these were the statements that were available. And there have been statements by the commission to the legislative staff on, and for particular legislation on these same type of issues. And Jasmine, if I remember right, there is a letter maybe posted somewhere about that legislation that this same, it has to do with rates. electricity rates.
So then, if it is our opinion that, and I would say it is my opinion, my assessment, that this language covers sort of the response to the Evergy rates. If we agree that the current language on the screen serves as a appropriate umbrella for that, then we could ask you, Jasmine, to issue a statement. Is that?
So it wouldn't be, it may be me, it may be just the city attorney's office, but it would be a statement on behalf of the city of Lawrence regarding this issue.
And this is something we could do now, and we wouldn't/shouldn't wait for the Tuesday vote, because they would be deciding 2021 stuff anyway, which wouldn't be directly relevant.
This is Jasmine. That in talking through this, I think that is more appropriate, because that will be for 2021, and this is an issue that is that they're making decisions on in 2020.
I just sent you a copy of a letter that was written by the mayor on a piece of legislation, Senate Bill 124 for the Kansas Energy Fairness Act. And it has to do about supporting and encouraging growth of the renewable energy industry in Kansas, restore balance to customer rates, and increase opportunities for distributed generation energy. I feel like this letter proves that these statements give them the authority to do that. I just sent it to Jasmine and Jackie.
Oh, email? Okay.
Yes, sorry, email.
I'm gonna do a time check really quick because it's almost 10 minutes until we're up for a meeting. So I'm gonna ask Jasmine, in the past, we haven't needed a motion to request staff help on something. Would we need a motion on this in order to ask staff to write that letter to submit to the Kansas Corporation Commission?
That's a good question. I would prefer that there be a motion just to cover our bases, just to cover the bases. That would be what would make me most comfortable.
So I'm glad to make that motion that we ask the city commission staff or mayor to send a letter on behalf of the city regarding the legislative priorities and this issue. Does that cover it?
This is Rachel, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. My dog is barking in the background, but I'm going to go through a roll call now to get your yeses and nos or ayes and nays on this motion. So, Kay, I will start with you.
Yes.
Thank you. Morgan?
Yes.
Thank you. Deb?
Yes.
Thank you. Rachel?
Yes.
Thank you. Lily?
Yes.
Thank you. Kira?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's see who else we have here. Is that everybody for now?
Allison says yes.
Thank you, Allison.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's everybody I see. And then I say yes as well. So that passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, really quickly, let's see. Oh yeah, we still have just a few minutes. Jasmine, would you like to do staff report really quickly?
Yes, it is a very quick staff report. Just an update on the stream buffer ordinance question that came up last meeting. So I have a report from the staff member that's working on that. Unfortunately, there hasn't been any progress on the stream buffer ordinance. Staff has been working on a land disturbance ordinance. Progress on that has been slower than anticipated due to a change in the planning director and COVID this year. There have been 3 meetings with the home builders and developers on their respective sites. And that is the information I have on the stream buffer ordinance. I do not have any other staff report at this time.
Okay, thank you. In terms of future agenda items, we have our elections coming up for chair and vice chair. Let's see, we have a couple things I wanted to mention. One was the solar bus topic that we've discussed. We haven't really wrapped that up because Jasmine answered some questions last month on that. I have some additional material to forward on to all of you. So that might be a nice wrap up for our next meeting to discuss. Reed presented that information to us and has requested our time again to speak with us briefly on the Planning Commission's first draft of an outdoor lighting ordinance. So he says it aims to decrease the city's light pollution and decrease excessive glare. And he feels like there's a few important points that he would like for us to know. I would like to know from board members whether that's something that you would like to hear from and put time on our agenda for.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. That's good enough for me. I will work with Jasmine and Reed to make that happen. And then lastly, what we discussed last month on our Green New Deal topic, which was a subcommittee specifically for addressing Green New Deal items via ordinance. And I spoke with Jasmine a little bit on that because right now it seems like we have, mainly one functioning subcommittee, and the Green New Deal is very broad. And what we spoke about was that SAB really hasn't started from scratch on identifying, goals and things that we want to work on for several years now. And with our board's been pretty consistent this year, but before that there was quite a bit of turnover. And I remember feeling quite empowered by the process that we went through to determine those goals starting from scratch. And so I wanted to check with board members to see if they thought, in the new year we'll get a couple new members and go through that process, maybe dedicate a whole meeting to figuring that out so that we can then determine individually what we want to work on and feel a little more productive.
I
Are you
agree
talking
with that.
about?
It'd be timely.
So I guess so are you talking about your overall goal, the SAB overall goals versus the Climate Adaptation Committee?
Right. We have a committee. We have basically one functioning committee right now for the climate plan. And so it would be outside of that determining, what else SAB is interested in working toward in the meantime, because that is a huge project, but not everybody on the board can be involved in that one subcommittee. So
It's establishing a new list of subcommittees, right? Sorry, this is Deb Ford.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Deb.
It's establishing a new list of subcommittees.
Effectively, in the end, it would be really it's starting out with what
ideas.
Our goals to be, and hopefully that would be in the same conversation.
That would be awesome.
Okay. I think so. Anyone else want to weigh in? We've got very little time, but. Okay. Well, I'll leave it open for a couple of minutes for member updates. If anybody has a minute or two that they want to update us on something.
I would like to ask or suggest maybe there's a place where we could put some of these resources regarding this issue on the energy thing, because it's just not one situation. There are a lot of details that I didn't mention that is good information for somebody if they wanted to prepare a statement to respond to the docket. Is there a place to park some of this information, Jasmine? Obviously, it should be from reputable sources, there are a number of those, including the print and TV media that have weighed in.
So I would say that the website is one resource, but I will say that there's not much traffic to that website. So I don't, if the goal is to get information out to people, that's not the best way. And I would need to be careful about the line between, advocacy and education on this topic. So, I'd have to think more about what that could look like, Kay.
I started going through the Docket documents, and there are so many. And if a layperson that really doesn't know much about this wanted to make some statements, it's hard to, there's a lot of information that I just don't know if there's a way that we could provide information.
Can I make a suggestion, Kay?
Mm-hmm.
Climate and Energy Project does a really excellent job of education. And I think if anyone were to do even like a Facebook or Google search of Climate and Energy Project, Climate plus Energy Project, they would find several very easy resources to get involved and make one of those comments.
I 100% agree. I just didn't know how it could be handled.
Yeah, we don't have much of a resource in terms of public engagement at this point. So hopefully in terms of, if someone saw our agenda, they could click on the docket. If someone saw the video, they could go search out Climate and Energy Project.
The climate and energy people are very good at all the facts and figures. And if I need specific information, Dorothy Barnett, the executive director, knows.
Okay, we are coming up on our 7 o'clock deadline, so I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and I will see you all next month. Thank you.
Thank you.